You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the final round of Swiss Round 6 for the Eternal Tournament Series, 5th weekly of Season 3. I am once again joined by my wonderful co-caster, Truedawn, and we are going to jump into our Round 6 matchup in just a second of Unearthly on Rakano Plate versus Angrychicken on Big Combry.
And I actually like Unearthly's build of Rakano Plate a lot. There's a lot of directions you can go with this deck. You can play like 8 or 12 1-drops. You can play different equipment. They are playing Shogun Scepter, which is one of the two equipment along with Hammer of Might that gets value when you play it. So if your creature gets removed, it's not a big blowout. And also Crownwatch Cavalry. Crownwatch Cavalry is good in this deck because if it ever gets hit with Warcry, it essentially double stacks it, where the Crownwatch Cavalry itself gets the +1/+1, and the buff it gives to the creature also gets that +1/+1. So any Warcry that ends up going on Crownwatch Cavalry is essentially just a double dip, making it very potent.
Yeah, that is very true, and we do see there's a very interesting build. Unearthly deciding to make, just some minor changes after the nerf, but nothing really too crazy. This is more or less the resident Rakano player doing his thing. We do know Unearthly as the Rakano player, so he is our go-to guy for that. Angrychicken, on the other hand, is playing this Big Combry list. And his is, also pretty standard here. Nothing too out of the ordinary. So it should be a nice little matchup here. I'm inclined to say Rakano is a little favored in this matchup if they can get on the ground early. But it is very easy for Big Combry to stall them out.
It's going to depend a lot on Unearthly's ability to make like Devoltron of something. I really liked Righteous Fury in this matchup along with other matchups, but which is one of the cards Unearthly has cut from their 75 entirely. So that might come back because Unearthly's ability to go big is blunted a bit, but maybe he can go underneath fast enough. We will see here as we move into game one.
Yeah, and this is a great start from Unearthly. If he could get another seat undepleted, like this would be basically exactly what you would want in a Rakano draw. Champion of Glory going to be able to come down here. Curious which one he's going to decide to make it. Opts for the 1-3, probably smart.
In the Combray matchup, it doesn't matter a lot. Like in Shadow, you would want to do the green first to make it survive Vara's Favor and Lightning Storm. But in this matchup, you don't really, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he doesn't actually have any cards that interact with it in a negative way, so he's just going to be looking for power. Curious to see if he is just going to slam in with the Rakano or the Oni Ronin, and he does. Not bad there. You trade away the 1-drop for the 2-drop, and you do get another Warcry trigger. So Unearthly going to be looking for a 4th power.
Valkyrie Enforcer is really big here. It's going to make the champion a 1/1. So Unearthly's threats are kind of blunted, and they have nothing to play, which is gross. But generally, like if they can get up one more, the Hammer of Might will make this 1/1 relevant. Although now he has to spend mana Vanquishing the Sandstorm Titan. So Unearthly is pretty far on the back foot, and Rakano is not well equipped to come back from behind.
No, not particularly. We do see both of these Deep Forge plates, though. That will be the card that he can hopefully make some sort of a comeback with as we get to the later part of the game. But of course, the Combry player very often will be holding those Vanquishes, so he will have answers of his own. And yeah, Unearthly in a very awkward situation here now. Probably going to want to torch away this Valkyrie Enforcer.
Yeah, the bad thing is he can't chump with the 1/1 because he needs it. His hand is 4 equipment. He needs bodies in play, even the 1/1. Just to make it so if he does draw running power, these cards in his hand can actually maybe get him back in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Angrychicken realizing Unearthly is power starved, just dropping his Great Parliament on curve because he needs it right now. Curious to see what he's going to play this turn. And yeah, I was wondering if we would see this Crownwatch Cavalry. I like this because it allows him to double block the bird.
Yeah, so you get to maintain a body. Also, playing Hammer of Might doesn't make the 1/1 block anything profitably. You trade with the bird, chump block the Titan. So getting the second body in play allows you to either chump block with something and like still have a 3/3 in play, or double block, which kind of got thrown out of the window with that Combo Healer. So we'll likely see either no blocks or a chump block on the Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, and he looks like he was just going to chump block with the Crown Watch Cavalry, as you said. This puts him in an awkward situation, though. He couldn't swing in even if he wanted to. Although now with the Rakano Outlaw being a 6/6, he can block. Though I have a feeling Angrychicken is holding a Vanquish in hand, and he in fact is. So that will allow him to close out what ends up being a very quick one in the Combri player's favor.
Yeah, and that match, that was one of the games you see where Rakano's unable to convert their early aggression into an advantage, unable to snowball Warcry, unable to make their creatures continually get large to keep up with the Combray deck, and then they just get brick walled and run over. So hopefully for Unearthly, he'll be able to do a better job of executing a game plan post sideboard.
Yeah, and he definitely will have a few tools at his disposal. He's got 3 Protects, 3 Ruins, a Vanquish, 4 Silverwing Familiars, a Sword of Icaria, a Deforged Plate, and 2 Soulfire Drakes. Probably we'll see. It's actually a little curious to see what's going to come in. Unfortunately, Sandstorm Titan is just such a good card against Rakano, since they really, a lot of the Rakano game plans do rely on Soulfire Drakes and Silverwing Familiars getting suited up and going over the air. And obviously Sandstorm Titan holds them all to the ground.
It's actually interesting that Unearthly wanted to sign. Oh no, I thought he was signing in Silver Familiars, but this is the deck with all the cards and he's taking out what he doesn't want. But the Vanquish is definitely something I'd like to see. The Deforged Plate, the Soulfire Drake, maybe, but it's really just the Vanquish and the Deforged Plate. You need to keep presenting exceptionally large threats, and Vanquish helps deal with the Sandstorm Titans, so your little guys get through, and Deforged Plate makes your guys big. So Fire Drake is very good if you can kill/silence the Sandstorm Titan, or have Warcry it big enough. So it might come in. I'm not sure. It depends on how many bad cards you think he has. You definitely want the torches here. So I could see a lot of different ways to cover there.
Yeah, he did also grab in some Protects so he can keep himself checked from those Vanquishes that, of course, Angrychicken is definitely going to be packing, trying to take care of the Voltron up units. Angrychicken himself probably bringing in just a couple cards to make his deck a little bit more aggressive, maybe even a Healer's Cloak to subside a little bit of that early aggression. But we are into game 2, and Unearthly with a little bit of a weird hand here, holding 5 2-drops.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward, but there are definitely worse hands you can have with Rakano. He does have a lot of threats. He has the Vanquish to get rid of the stuff that's big enough to block them. So although this Wicked Student is going to be in a spot where he can dodge that. So we'll see if he's able to draw power, able to play these Valkyries, able to get through this Awakened Student. And he's actually not in the best spot in the world.
Yeah, not in the best spot in the world, indeed. He's gonna need Unearthly's gonna need to find power here. Angrychicken, on the other hand, could very easily take over this game if he has like a power and a Combri healer here. Like, this is really what he's looking for.
Valkyrie Enforcer is also an exceptional play of this turn. Tag the Champion of Glory.
Yeah, that as well. Valkyrie Enforcer tagging the Champion of Glory down to a 1/1 is always a very oppressive play.
See how Angrychicken giving this turn some thought, so he probably has options, which isn't good news for Unearthly, because pretty much any of Angrychicken's 3-drops are very good here.
Yeah, really, Combri Healer, Seraph, like, it honestly doesn't matter. Like, pretty much anything, as long as it's a 3-drop, is good here. And Angrychicken willing to give Unearthly the trade, it looks like.
Yeah, I don't hate this here. This makes it so you can save the Vanquish for other cards, such as Sandstorm Titan. You have enough creatures. You're good in that department. So I definitely don't hate trading the Champion of Glory for the Awakened Student.
Yeah, and Unearthly just hitting power issues and not going to be able to block this Seraph. So, Angrychicken getting a little bit aggressive. Have a feeling we'll see a Sandstorm Titan coming down, and in fact we do. So that will likely have to be vanquished away by Unearthly.
Yeah, and Unearthly is just in this really bad spot where he's limited to 1 spell a turn, and those 1 spells are 2-drops. So while he's just going 2-drop after 2-drop one at a time, when Angrychicken's just going up the curve to play more and more powerful things, although if his turn is just Double Fine the way, that may give Unearthly a window to claw back into this game.
Yeah, and that really does. Ooh, and Unearthly finding a power, he really needed that, and now he's finally got it. So this will hopefully help him. If he can get to 4 power, this would be pretty important. He would actually be able to get the Champion of Glory and the Crown Watch down. Also, notably, the Crown Watches are now 3/3s instead of just the 3/1s, and they have that endurance buff. So,
yeah, Valkyrie to tag the first one in play isn't great, but if this Crown Watch Cavalry can pump up the Outlaw, make it a 4/4 attack to this Valkyrie, and there is the fourth power. So now Unearthly's hand is unlocked. He has a lot of options here. He could go double 2-drop. He could play the Valkyrie. He could play the Crown Watch. A lot of plays.
yeah, and if you put this Crown Watch anywhere, you're definitely putting it on this Rakano Outlaw. 4/4 quick draw is not something to be messed around with. Angrychicken likely, though, holding a Vanquish since we haven't seen one come out. Haven't seen any targets for them up to this point.
Although Angrychicken is winning the race as it stands right now, things could shift, but the Mystic Ascendant is very good. Soulfire Drake is also very good, although he's 1 mana short of it. But this race is very close.
Soulfire Drake, very good in this situation. Valkyrie Enforcer actually can slow this race down by quite a bit. Unearthly guaranteed to get 4 in this turn, and he can silence the Mystic Ascendant and then trade off the Valkyrie Enforcer into the Mystic Ascendant and make a chump block to essentially keep life totals relatively close and probably get a swing turn. Definitely if he could pick up a 5th power and get in there with the Soulfire Drake.
Yeah, he just wants to build with this Drake. It got pumped once, so it at least trades with the Sandstorm Titan. If Angrychicken draws one of those. And he did the play you said, silence the Mystic Ascendant, look to trade the Valkyries with each other. The Seraph could maybe get it for 3, although that Combat Healer kind of blows things up, so now he's taking 6.
Yeah, Combat Healer begs to differ that you can just get in there like that. And we do see Unearthly going ahead and making this double block here. Of course, the Valkyrie Enforcer are going to get taken out. And, that does pave the way for this 3/6 to really start getting in. But we do see now Soulfire Drake. He's going to be able to drop this. He also can just use the Valkyrie Enforcer to silence Angrychicken's Valkyrie Enforcer, grounding the unit, which makes it much easier to block.
I definitely like Valkyrie 2-drop here because and I would play the Champion of Glory specifically to bait Desert Marshal. So your Soulfire Drake has the coast clear, and we do see Unearthly go for that. And there is no pause, so there is no Desert Marshal. So the way is definitely clear for the Soulfire Drake in the next turn, and the board is pretty stable inside of Unearthly.
Yeah, everything is looking good on his side. It looks like he might have clawed his way back here. Ooh, and Finest Hour, that's going to be really nice. Yeah, if he drops the Soulfire Drake here, he can push 9 damage, assuming no Desert Marshal was picked up. And yeah, not
2-turn
seeing
clock.
one. So yeah, Unearthly going to be able to close this game out very quickly if he goes unchecked.
Sandstorm Titan does help.
But Sandstorm Titan helps quite a bit, but I have a feeling this Finest Hour just might catch Angrychicken off.
I thought the Finest Hour may have given him a profitable alpha attack there, but Unearthly's being a little bit conservative. Be looking to just draw into a Vanquish.
Yeah, probably looking to draw into that Vanquish, but that's not necessarily the route I would go. And we already see the board starting to gum up. And Angrychicken definitely starting to take back some of that board position he had given up.
And now I think Unearthly's window is closed. This Mystic Ascendant is going to go up to an 8/8. Seraph is going to be online. Like Rakano has a very small window, like in a board stall situation like this, where you have profitable attacks. And the longer the game goes on, the faster the window closes. And I think that they should have attacked like 2 turns ago, and last turn was maybe the last opportunity to have a good attack. And now if Angrychicken has like pretty much anything here, the door is just shut.
Yeah, it very much is. Oh yeah, and there we go. Healer's Cloak. That's gonna reset the clock by 2 turns. So yeah, or a turn as it were. Yeah, Unearthly very desperately needing to find a Vanquish here to start pushing in this damage, and it is just not happening for him. All the while, this Mystic Ascendant, and now this
Awakened Student.
Yeah, thank you, Awakened Student. Wow, I really blanked. I wanted to call it Temple Scribe, but I was like, that's not even close to correct. Yeah, Awakened Student and Mystic Ascendant, both triggering up off of these empowers right here.
Yeah, and Unearthly's going to need something like a Deep Forge plate, a Vanquish on the Sandstorm Titan to even like come close to coming back to this game. But now Seraph is going to start going off, so the window is closing rapidly.
Yeah, it really is. And, I did like, I had mentioned it, but I did like the Cloak bring in from Angrychicken. I think Cloak is super good in this matchup, being able to just heal up really big off of one of your units. And we do see that it's just put him so far out of reach.
Yeah, he's just not going to be able to come back and drawing all of these lands or all of these power sources, excuse me. But he really, really needs something like Play or Vanquish, and he's just been able to find it while these Seraphs just close out the game.
Yeah, and that is a what is the name of that card? It's Order of the Spire? Is that?
Yes, Order of the Spire. He doubles his attack every time you play power. So it's also another threat. Could, especially with this Martial Ironthorn. It's going to become an 8/8.
This is going to be crazy. We're going to see a bunch of triggers go off on the board. 2 card draws, +4/+4 the Mystic Ascendant, +2/+2 to the Awakened Student. Ends up being +7/+7 to the Order of the Spire, and the one-way shotgun effect that is ever looming now.
Yeah, and even now, like, I guess Vanquish is still live. They have Angrychicken has no other flyers. It's just the Sandstorm Titan holding everything together. And they actually just risked it in combat, right? They don't have another flyer. So he could like throw together some blocks on the Sandstorm Titan with all of his 2/1s or whatever. Creatures don't matter. Maybe get an attack back in the air. Maybe a lot of stuff comes together. It's a path.
Yeah, it's a path. It certainly is a path. This is going to be very difficult, though. I mean, there's just so much on the board for Angrychicken. Like, it's so easy for him to overpower. Like, even with just these basic attacks in here, we're already seeing Unearthly have to just commit so much of his board to trying to eat these things up.
Yeah, and Angrychicken is back to 23 after the Healer's Cloak and this little Armor Smith. So even if the air gets cleared up, it's at least 3 turns of attacking with both creatures, which leaves him vulnerable to crackback. So Unearthly needs to draw like Deepforged Plate is probably the best thing because that allows the Soulfire Drake to attack and still block. But outside of that, not a lot's going to help here.
Yeah, he is definitely going to need to hit a very big Deepforged Plate, and even then, I unfortunately don't think it's going to be enough here. Maybe. Yeah, because there's just no Warcry triggers around. Like, the plate itself will be a 5/5. Oh, and Great Parliament, yeah, that's going to go ahead and lock Unearthly out of this game. I don't think he has a single way.
Right on time with the Vanquish.
Yeah, Vanquish coming way too many turns late, and yeah, Unearthly realizing the writing on the wall. There's just too many units on the other side of the board. He can't do anything about it. And Unearthly actually going to lose that series 0-2.
Yeah, and I think Unearthly there was that 2-turn window where they had like not the best attacks, but as good as it was ever going to get. And they frequently find yourselves in spots with their Recano deck like that, where you have to like chump attack in half of your board and like get Warcry 4 and like force through some damage. And you have to make exchanges like that because it's not getting better.
Yeah, it really was not, unfortunately. And yeah, just couldn't bring home the series there. So yeah, Unearthly, unfortunately, losing both those games right there. We do have a backup match for you all, though. We've got 2 players that we have seen a few times now on the mainstream and the backup. We got Toth201 on his Zakaria Gold versus Redworld on Fiery Combry. Basically, different sides of the same coin. They called their decks different, but they essentially are the same deck with some minor differences.
Yeah, functionally the same deck, just little flavor choices from here on out. We are joining game 2. Toth is up 1-0. So we will see if he can close out the series or if Redworld's able to take it to a game 3. Right now, the game is very close. I mean, this 8/8 is still an 8/8, despite the fact that being silenced. He gets to jack this Ironthorn here. Look to chump block possibly, but this game is pretty far from over. Both players at very high life.
Yeah, certainly so. And that 8/8 Mystic Ascendant on Redworld's side is likely going to come crashing down. And Akaria also posing a huge threat. I'm honestly kind of surprised he chose not to get in with the 8/8 there, but you can leave it on the ground as a blocker against this Jack if you want.
And I'm sorry, Toth does have the Great Parliament too. It's interesting that he's not playing these Ironthorns, because also getting up to the one-sided harsh rule effect is pretty relevant in this matchup. He's far away from it, but you can start building to it. He's going to be Parliamenting this turn anyway for 2. Yeah, so you have enough mana to Ironthorn. I'm not sure what the cost is of. I guess he wants to leave up some Stand Together. That makes sense.
Yeah, we'll see if he can leave this up. I mean, this will allow him to trade into the Ikaria effectively. I'm curious to see what Redworld's got up his sleeve for this turn. It's definitely interesting that he didn't get in with the 8/8 last turn, because that would put him in a much different board position this turn.
Yeah, would have had to have been a chump block by either the Jack or the Desert Marshal, or just going down to 7. So here, Toth actually has pretty reasonable blocks because of the Stand Together.
Yeah, he can trade this whole board away if he wants.
Yeah, the owls can. You can even block one owl to trade straight up with the Ikaria. Then the Jack and the owl can team up on the 8/8, and then you could just like let through the 5. And then you still have either the owl or the Jack and a 2/1 or a 3/2 after the Stand Together.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to doing that where you just take the 8. There's also, you can just trade the whole board down if you're feeling comfortable, although I have to imagine that Toth isn't feeling quite that comfortable. So yeah, it looks like he's going to elect to just trade off here and leave himself with something on the board. We'll see if Redworld has some sort of response. Redworld is packing those torches, so there is a possibility we'll see some sort of trying to get cute with a torch here, but obviously Toth has Stand Together, so.
Interesting. He's blocking in such a way that makes the Stand Together unnecessary. Like, he didn't even need to fire it off here. He could have just let damage happen, because the Stand Together doesn't actually affect anything here.
Yeah, no, not particularly. It's not going to matter either way here. We see, and this is curious. I'm really surprised he decided to trade it off this way, because now you've got a 5/5 flyer against an 8/8 on the board, and this doesn't seem very good. It seemed like you would have rather just traded the whole board out at that point.
Flame Blast does steal the 8/8, but that's his whole turn. He does have blocks after that. It lets the Seraph ult, but he can't do anything about that. So we might just see a Flame Blast in the 8/8 this turn, and then he'll start making forward progress to these other things later. He could also play the Iron Thorn and the Seraph, but that leaves no good blocker for the 8/8.
I kind of like Seraph and Flame Blast, yeah, and that's the plan he ends up going for. Is I like getting the Seraph down and then Flame Blast, but Stand Together here going to be huge. That might just be too backbreaking for Toth to come back from in this situation.
Yeah, that's just absolutely savage. Now he gets to keep the Seraph. Both of these owls now trade with the opposing owl. He's a 9/9 Aegis. All of these attacks are great. None of these blocks are good. It's a bad spot for Toth.
Yeah, this is a very bad spot for him. I guess you just have to take 14 here, but you're pretty much you're putting yourself on harsh rule or bust, and even that won't be enough since the Aegis on the units will protect them. So yeah, I mean, I struggle to find a way Toth can actually get out of here, and in fact, Desert Marshal not going to be enough, which should take us to 1 game apiece.
Yep, we will be moving into game 3. The Stand Togethers were a huge deal there. Toth unable to convert his into huge value, and Redworld just making his absolutely disgusting. So those cards are important in that matchup, because Harsh Rule is the only card that really gets players back from behind, and also the Aegis blowing out the limited removal or the silence effects also has a lot of power. So whoever's able to leverage those, as we saw in that game, is going to have a big edge.
Yeah, Stand Together, super important as a card, can put in just so much work for him. But yeah, we'll see if we'll see how this matchup ends up playing out. This is a very weird matchup, because there are a lot of cards that can swing the tide of the game very easily. Stand Together, obviously, we brought it up. Ikaria, another great one. We saw Ikaria almost just take over the game there. Those great parliaments are super useful in this matchup, and Harsh Rule, of course, forces both players to never really overextend.
Yeah, it's a weird dance between trying to get ahead without overextending into Harsh Rule. So both players are going to likely have some amount of things on the board at some time, and then when one feels too far behind, they can equalize everything with the Harsh Rule. It's an interesting dance, and we'll see how both players play it as we move into our final game.
Yeah, we'll see how that comes down in this game 3. And we see Toth with an interesting hand here. He's got the Valkyrie Enforcer for the silence. He's got Find the Way too, so that'll help thin his deck and make sure he hits his power on time, which is very important in this matchup. Having a lot of power in this matchup, unlike a lot of other matchups, is very key. A lot of effects that are important as you get into the late game. 8 power for Seraph, 15 power for the Martial Ironthorn, and of course Mystic Ascendant interacting with the Empower triggers.
Yeah, this is a fine hand to keep in this matchup. Neither player is likely to put the other under much pressure. Just making sure you're able to hit your power drops all the way up onto the curve is the most important thing, which Toth is certainly able to do here.
Yeah, and he is going to go ahead and pick up one of these sigils of his choice, and just going to go ahead and pass his turn back. He'd probably just go ahead and use another Find the Way next turn. It'll depend on what Redworld wants to play here. It depends on if he wants to get aggressive, but looks like both players are just content to have a little truce in the battlefield and take some time to build up.
Yeah, there's no real 3-drop that Redworld would play there because Seraph you want to save for the late game, and Valkyrie Enforcer you want to save for the late game to deal with things like Seraph. So a lot of the early cards that can be played early don't need to be in this matchup. Although Sandstorm Titan's one of the exceptions, but Redworld doesn't have one, just passes the turn back. Neither does Toth, though, so I think we're just going to see a lot of land go here.
Yeah. This reminds me very much of like playing a real-time strategy game with a friend as a child. You and your friend agree to a friendly match, and you just kind of sit there and you build up your resources back and forth, and then you get to the late game stage where you have your full army, and we'll see the full slugfest come out in a few turns.
Yeah. And we do see a Seraph come down a little bit early. That's interesting, although it's probably because Redworld missed his power drop, which is going to matter a lot in this matchup. Not being able to get to the late game and execute all of the powerful top end both of these decks can do is going to put him at a severe disadvantage. So he kind of felt like he needed to just play something, and that's why we see the Seraph.
Yeah, it is very crippling to not actually be able to hit your power, as we've been talking about this whole time. The whole passing back and forth doesn't work too well when you miss your power drop. Though Redworld, obviously, they're echoing a card, picks up Find the Way. So we'll go ahead and see these Find the Ways shot off, and he'll be able to put some power down, which will be good for him.
Yeah, and Find the Way is just such a powerful card in these big Combre decks. Having a because you need to be playing things throughout the course of the game so you don't die, but also making power drops. And just if you're not drawing extra cards, that's just not really mathematically possible. So 2-for-1s like Find the Way really allow you to bring both sides together and hit your power drops throughout the course of the game without missing things on curve.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see a Redworld there, desert marshaling down the Martial Ironthorn. That way Toth doesn't gain but so much of an advantage on him. But we do see that Toth will hit 8 power here, and 8 power opens up quite a lot of interesting possibilities for him. He's got the ability to use Great Parliament, although I doubt he will play that onto an empty board like this. May also choose to go the Seraph down, but in this matchup, you generally want to protect him a little bit as well. Probably we'll see a safe Amber Acolyte.
Yeah, this is a super awkward spot for Toth because extending either the Seraph or the Great Parliament makes you very vulnerable to Harsh Roll, which is the card you don't want to be vulnerable to a lot. I think you could even just pass the turn, either play the Amber Acolyte, do nothing, then you kind of bait Redworld into playing some kind of creature, and then Redworld has an investment in the board, making his Harsh Rolls worse, even though your board is better than his.
Ooh, and we do see... Oh, wow, but a Desert Marshal coming down to silence Seraph means that there's no Harsh Roll to be found in Redworld's hand. And Redworld does get to power up this Mystic Ascendant, though. I mean, that's fairly huge for him, having a card draw engine now.
The Flame Blast can tag it, or the Vanquish, actually. Toth has a couple ways to take care of it, but that is one answer down. Toth doesn't have a lot going on. He can Great Parliament. Oh my god, and the Protect. Protect matters a lot.
But the Flame Blast...
Yeah.
He sequences power perfectly, so this Flame Blast will still be able to clean up. If he had tried to do that in the reverse order, where he had actually used the Flame Blast to take care of it instead of the Vanquish, then that would have been a huge blowout. But instead, this ends up working out in his favor quite well. And now Toth is actually back in a pretty commanding position. He's got 2 Great Parliaments in hand to reload on. So
Yeah, Toth is in a decent spot, although this 5/5 blunts a lot of the aggression. He will be able to come back with the Sandstorm Titan and the Great Parliaments. So he also has. It's weird because the Sandstorm Titan, I'm not sure he actually wants to play because he could just attack with his Valkyrie, play Great Parliament, and he has lethal in the air next turn. So I think you just put Redworld to the test and say you got it. And like adding the Sandstorm Titan doesn't do a lot.
Yeah, no, I think I don't think Sandstorm Titan is the correct play either. I think you definitely put Great Parliament and put that lethal in the air, and you force your opponent to have it. I mean, we see Redworld does have Great Parliament floating around in his hand, and obviously all these prompts mean we know his other card is Protect. We see the Echo, Find the Way picked up by Redworld, and so he will have some owls to block, but actually a very smart decision by Toth to go ahead and drop both parliaments and really put Redworld on that harsh rule and say either you play this or you lose the game.
Yeah.
And
I do like Toth's choice there to extend out all the owls because he sensed weakness from Redworld that he didn't have a harsh rule. So he was able to extend out there and say, okay, I think you don't have it. I'm just going to force it here. And we see he doesn't have it. He also Seraph, doesn't find any help. And that should be the game.
Yeah, that will be the game. We actually do see, I'm not sure if it's on screen, but yeah, Redworld goes ahead and messages that his only out is Roland's Honor Guard, which is probably likely, actually.
I think he's actually correct there, because the owl doesn't do anything. He needs to hit the lifelink flyer off Seraph. Unable to do so there, so Toth takes the series. And good performance by Toth once again with his golden Akaria deck.
Yeah, did a fantastic job there winning in what essentially amounts to the mirror match. Not the exact same deck, but very similar in theme. Some very cool inclusions out of Toth, though. Playing Flame Blast in a Combri deck is something I'm sure a lot of Combri players wish they had access to. But Toth go ahead and constructing the deck around it, actually managing to build the power base that he can do it.
And we've seen that Flame Blast be exceptionally good, like several times from Toth now, like last week, this week. It's just such a versatile card in like the reach. It can frequently deal north of 10 damage. It usually kills whatever you need it to kill in a deck that is not have a lot of stuff to kill things. So that Flame Blast has been super good for him.
Yeah, it is very impressive. And, it's even more impressive because, Toth is playing a deck that is not easy to manage the power requirements on when you have things like Flame Blast. Obviously, Find the Way and Seek Power help out quite a bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, you still need to hit double or even triple influence in all three of your colors fairly consistently.
Yeah, Martial Ironthorn helps out a bit there. It can replicate red sources. So that's a little way for him to cheat on it. Amber Acolyte, I do imagine he runs into trouble sometimes. He only has 2 Find the Way, which is a bit greedy, but obviously working out well for him so far. Awesome deck by Toth, awesome performance. Another week again.
Yeah, doing exceptionally well. Goes ahead and locks up his top 8 slot, I believe. I don't have confirmation yet, but if we have any of the top 8 bracket, if our production sends it to us, we will go ahead and let you all know about it. In the meantime, and we do in fact. Okay, so we have standings. So that was Toth taking down the matchup, making him 6-0 with Akaria Gold or Combrano, depending on how you wish to phrase it. Shed, another one of our regulars, as 5-1 with Stone Scar mid range. So bringing it back the Stone Scar, giving us a little bit of representation. Angrychicken 5-1 with Big Combri. Grumpy Old Man with 5-1 with Elysian mid range. Love Up 5-1 with his Shimmering Combri. And Redworld, who we also just saw lose there, still in at 5-1 with Fiery Combrano or Fiery Combri or Combrano. So yeah, him and Toth repping the Combrano builds today.
And we see this top 8 metagame is looking a lot slower. We do have one Stone Scar mid-range deck that apparently didn't get the memo that deck's unplayable anymore. But we have like all these slow 3-color decks that are really taking advantage of the fact that the fastest deck in the format no longer exists.
Yeah, and we do see quite a shift in color representation from the last few weeks to this week. Normally, fire and shadow, the most represented colors in our top 8. And today, just looking down this list already, I can tell you time is definitely going to be up there since time is present in 5 of the 6 confirmed decks.
Yeah, Sandstorm Titan is in a really good spot right now. This is a pretty good metagame for him. It's a lot about creature combat. It's a lot about mid-range mirrors. He matters in those games. The worse Shadow gets, the better Sandstorm Titan gets. So when people stop playing things like Annihilate and Death Strike, Sandstorm Titan gets a lot of value.
Yeah, it does change it quite a bit. But I think that is all we have for everyone for round 6. So we are going to take a very short break and we are going to come back in just a few moments as we finish up round 6 to bring you all the top 8 bracket and then our first match of the quarterfinals. Don't go anywhere. We will be back in just a few moments.